Let's talk about strings and strings slicing. What does that mean and how does it work? And let's get some examples going. But before we do that, let's talk about this car. This is the Ferrari 488 GTB. What does that mean? Well, this is the car that I have on a banner on my YouTube channel, and I wanted to share what that was because that's what we're going to be discussing here. We're going to be discussing this car. My car is a string, and we have this string here. That's the Berlinetta. I'm not sure if that's exactly how you pronounce it, but there you go. I've said it. Let's talk about what a string is. Well, a string is a collection of characters. That's all it is. And we can access different characters based on their index. So, for example, my car bracket notation in passing 3, we're going to get this one here. This is the positive indexing is below line number 4. We have the positive indexes. Above the above line number 4, we're going to have the negatives. I don't have the negatives in here, but just consider that this is -1, this is -2, this is -3, this is -4, and so on. I just don't want to put the negatives because then it won't have the digit right on top of the letter. So just bear with me. But in Python, we have positive indexes and negative indexes. And we know that the formula for positive indexes is it starts at 0 and you kind of increment by 1. And that's how you get 1 through 9 in this case for a total length of 10. Now, if you really wanted to get the formula of that is, well, it's just the negative plus the length. The negative being, well, for the B, the negative is -10. -10 plus the length, which is 10. -10 plus 10 is 0. That's how we get to 0. Similarly, we get the same going for the negative numbers. What's the algorithm for that? Well, the logic, the formula for that is positive minus the length. So, for example, if we get positive for A here, the positive is 9 minus the length, which is 10. 9 minus 10 is -1. Just remember, all these are negative up here. So we know we can do that. Now, why am I bringing this up? I'm bringing this up because this is super useful, not only for slicing that we're getting into now, but really for indexing. So we know that. And please look at the other video on indexing, which is important too. But this is all about slicing. So I needed to build this up so that we can continue talking about slicing. Okay. So what else can we do? So what is slicing? Slicing is something like this. If we look at this, if we go line by line here, it's something where we could say, hey, my car, it's holding that string, and I want it to go from 0, the ending 5. So what is the first parameter? Well, the first parameter is going to be the start, then the end, and then the step. So this is the start, this is the end, and here there's a step. And we know that if we don't pass in a step, there's a default. There's default values in Python, and the default will be 1. So that, without anything, and this, it's going to be the same thing. It's going to step through 1 at a time. So what does that get you? That gets you indexes from 0 all the way up to 4, because it's kind of like range in this way. It goes up to 5, not including 5. So what do we get? We get 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 being A, not including 5, right? So that's how we get to slice this, right? Using this mechanism here. That's basic slicing. What else can we do? Well, we can omit the beginning, right, which is the start, and the step. If we don't pass one, we know it's going to be a default. It's going to be similar to 0 and colon 1 rather. So this is the same thing. So if we do that, it's the same thing as this, right? So we're going to get the same value because that's exactly what we did here. Fine, that's fine. How about here? When we do my car, start at 7, and we don't have a default for end. Well, that means go all the way to the end, right? And what we get is something like this, right? Towards the end, all the way at 7, all the way to the end, including the end. This is the first one here, which we said, hey, start at the beginning and go all the way up to 5, not including 5. It stops at 4, including 4. So far, so good. Okay. Then we talked about negative indexing. So we said that negative indexing, we could do something like this, where we can say start at -6, and we know -6 is the start, and go ahead and go all the way to the end, right? Negative 6 to the end. What does negative 6 mean? Negative 6 means you're here, right? Because that's what negative 6 is. Negative 6 and go all the way to the end. And that's exactly what we get here, right? Exactly what we get here. Now, using step, what do? You can, again, just pass in the last parameter. The default is 1. If you do the last parameter here, it'll override that 1. And so here this is saying start at the beginning, start at the end. Those are the defaults. And skip every other one. And so this is what we'll get when we print that out. Okay? Reversing a string. Reversing a string is saying, hey, look, pass in negative 1. This is start and stop, and go ahead and go all the way from the right to the left. That's what that's saying. Now, I'm going to run this, and so we can see that it doesn't blow up, and we get exactly what I printed in those comments for the most part. Except for maybe this one. I don't see this one. Substring 3, which is 7 to the end. This is the third one that we print. Third one. Oh yeah, it's gonna be this. You know why? It's because I changed the string before. I had it to this. I had the whole thing before, and now I only have this. So it's a little bit different. So I apologize. It's a little bit different. Don't go by these. Go by this, because I made it smaller. The string. I didn't have Ferrari and the whole 9 yards for that. So I'll remove these so you don't get confused. But that's the basic idea. You don't have to. You can believe me. It's still accurate. It's still working as I've explained. I just don't have Ferrari, right? Gran Turismo, Berlinetta. I'm not doing the whole string. But you get the idea. Now, what else did I want to show? I want to close maybe by saying that there's a difference between slicing and indexing. For example, if we want to say, just to kind of keep it simple, if we want to say, get me the slicing from 0 to 500, right? Well, there is no 500, right, for an index here. There's no 500 positive index. So you would expect this to blow up. Maybe not. If you're a Python pro, you know that this is not going to blow up, but that's exactly what I want to highlight. This is not going to blow up, and it's going to get me from 0 all the way to the end, but it's not going to blow up even though we don't have a 500 positive index. This is only for slicing, right? Slicing will get you through this. If you do the same thing and you do it just by not slicing, but you want to basically get me this index, which doesn't exist, well, this will blow up. This is indexing, and this will blow up. And it says, hey, look, string index is out of range. So that's something to be super, super careful about when we're dealing with Python. Python does allow this. It does not allow this. Indexing, it doesn't allow to be out of bounds or out of index, out of range. But slicing, it does, and that's because it wants to help you recover from any little tiny mistake that you could make with slicing. That's sort of a feature, it's not a bug. This is done on purpose. This is the intention behind the design. So I wanted to bring this up. I hope this makes sense.